Hey folks, I typically do this early in the morning, and I did this morning, but my wife needed to use the bathroom, and if you have watched any of the previous days, I'm usually sitting on the floor in the bathroom, so that kind of interrupted things. So I'm just gonna reread this today, and sorry it's a little late. So, Genesis chapter 21. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was eight days old, Abraham circumcised him, as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. And she added, Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. The child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, Get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac. The matter distressed Abraham greatly, because it concerned his son. But God said to him, Do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring. Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders, and then set her off with the boys. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. There she went off and sat down about a bow shot away, for she thought, I cannot watch the boy die. As she sat there, she began to sob. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me, or my children, or my descendants. Show to me the country where you now reside as a foreigner, the same kindness I have shown you. Abraham said, I swear it. Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. But Abimelech said, I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today. So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech asked Abraham, What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves? He replied, Accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well. So that place was called Beersheba, because the 2 men swore an oath there. After the treaty had been made at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. So, that chapter is kind of interesting. There's a couple things that happen here. So one, we see Hagar is replaying the situation she was in earlier, where she had been, she had run away in that instance after Sarah had been, harsh with her, and God had met her, somewhere in the wilderness, and now she's been sent away, and God has met her. somewhere in the wilderness. And so we see this pattern happens more than once here. And then you see she wasn't willing to stay with her son while he was dying. That's kind of terrible. And I get it, man. It would be real hard to watch your kids suffer. It really would. But how much harder is it to leave them for them, you know? And thinking about how hard it is to watch your kids suffer, it makes me think about how hard it had to be for God to watch his son suffer, to watch any of us suffer. And it'd be terrible. You know, being a father, that's something that I couldn't imagine. And we see God opens her eyes and she sees a well. So what she saw before and what she sees now are different. And it's because God opened her eyes. And does that mean the well was there previously? Or that God put the well there after? I think it means the well was already there. And sometimes that's the case for all of us. Salvation is here. Sometimes we can't see it. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed with the difficulties of the situations we're in that we forget about God, and we forget about the one place that's right there to save us. And we just need to open our eyes. So then we have this instance of Abimelech and Phicol, the commander, coming to speak with Abraham. And they recognize that Abraham is powerful not because Abraham is, but because God is. And that Abraham is favored by God. And so they're trying to secure themselves against Abraham's rising power, it looks like. And so Abraham is willing to do that. He says that he swears, not to deal unreasonably with Abimelech and his descendants. And then Abraham brings up this well of water. And you can see Abraham has this tendency to avoid conflict because he knew about this. Abimelech didn't. And so Abraham had waited until Abimelech had put him in a position of authority. Abraham had the opportunity to agree or to not agree, and he agreed. And it was only after that he had the ability to then say, hey, this thing's happening that's bothering me. And so you can see that there's this reluctance of Abraham to be totally forthright about things with people and to deal with the conflict it might produce. We see this again and again with Abraham. And here's another instance. Though at least it seems like it's getting better, right? Because in the past, he'd waited for God to express to the people he was dealing with how they were treating Abraham unfairly. But here, Abraham does it for himself. And so I think that's important. I think that shows that God is teaching Abraham little by little, and Abraham is listening, and he's getting there. So, I'm sure we could talk about this all day, but I think that's enough for that chapter. Anyway, I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. All right.